Hello everybody, Cybernary here with another Minecraft tutorial. I am in the end, as you can see. I have set the world to peaceful, that's why we don't see any Enderman about. But for some reason, when you set it to peaceful, the dragon sticks around, so I had to kill the dragon. But today, we are going to be doing a tutorial on how to build an Enderman farm. The Enderman farm that I have built on several different multiplayer servers in the past has been a copy of a YouTuber by the name of King Happy. Now, unfortunately, King Happy, his channel got shut down due to copyright issues, and we lost that build video on how he went about building his Behemoth Enderman farm, which, in my opinion, and several others, is probably the best designed Enderman farm that you can have. There have been several people that have made the Enderman farm since then. And I've seen other designs as well, but I still haven't seen one that works as good as King Happy's. So I thought for my second tutorial video, I would walk you through what it takes to build one of these, the mechanics behind why this is such a good Enderman farm, and walk you through the build. So will probably be a pretty long video, or I will break it up into multiple parts. I haven't decided yet. We'll see how long it takes. But I invite you to come along and enjoy watching us build King Happy's Behemoth Enderman farm. Alright everybody, before we get started, I did want to show you King Happy's build. I was able to find a world download of this build on a Reddit thread, and I will be providing a link in the description. I want it very well known that this is not my design. This is all King Happy's design on his Enderman farm. All I have done is take it and I'm going to make a build video about how to construct this. He worked out all the figures on what is needed, why the mechanics work the way they do, and everything. And I will say that I have tested this design in 1.8 with the new Endermites, and the design still does work. And there are several reasons for that. The primary one being, we don't give the Endermen any other spaces for them to teleport to. And that's important. They can try to teleport away from off the soul sand, but once we get done, you will see that there are not any teleportable blocks, if that's a word, teleportable, from the killing chamber where they can teleport away. And we want that for multiple reasons. Obviously, we don't want them trying to escape when we try to kill them, or when they drop down and almost die. But at the same time, we don't want a ton of Endermites spawning down here either. Now, according to the wiki, and again, this is still snapshot, as of this recording, the current snapshot is 14W21B. As of this time, the spawning rate of Endermites is only 5% when Endermen teleport. But we're trying to limit that as much as possible so that the Endermen don't even attempt to teleport, because they can't find a block to teleport to within 32 blocks in any axis of where they are standing. That's the important thing to remember. 32 blocks from here is where they will attempt to teleport. If they can find a solid block with three spaces of air above it, then they will teleport to it. Now, there's a couple other mechanics involved with this that we'll be getting into with the build, but I did want to kind of showcase King Happy's build and show you what you'll be getting when you download King Happy's world download. I will not be providing a world download. All I'm going to do is walk you through how to build this. And this is the Behemoth, the Enderman farm, the Behemoth Enderman farm as named by King Happy. And from what I have seen, it is the most productive XP farm in the game. Okay, so now that you've seen this, let's see. Before I get started with the build, we'll go ahead and get started with the build, and I'll explain some of the mechanics as we go. Obviously, you want this as far away from the end island as you can go. In some worlds where I've had plenty of competition for Enderman farms, where there have been one over here and one over here, I've taken my walkway out over 500 blocks away from the end island, just so that I can make sure that I'm far enough away so that my spawn rates don't get impacted by anybody else's farms. So now the end is infinite, just like the world. So if you wanted to take it out 1,000 blocks away from the island, feel free. All the better. But usually I recommend 200 to 300 blocks away from the island is more than enough, just to make sure that the island isn't loaded while you're over at your farm. Okay? Now, a couple other things that we will get into. You need to get down to level 1. See my y-axis on my F3 screen? It is at 1. So that means that if I was to get an object here and chuck it off the edge, it's going to disappear. My Q button isn't working. But see, it just goes away, because that is the void. Anything below that is nothing. And if I try to build below that, I can't. I can build next to it, but I can't build under it. So that is the lowest point that you can build in the end. And that's important for another reason too, because we want to maximize our spawnable platforms as we build this up. And those are all different numbers that we'll get into as we build. You know, you may be saying, how do I go about getting down to level 1? Well, I'm going to get into that as well when we start the build. One thing I will say, as far as King Happy's build, he does have a little bit more redstone here than I am planning on going over. If you are interested in this redstone, then you can study it with the world download. It does work in 1.8, and I will explain real quickly what this redstone does. If you hit this button, it's going to pull the sandstone or the soul sand back, and it's going to make this a killable drop for the Enderman. With the soul sand in place, it knocks the Enderman down to one hit kill. But two things happen when you hit this button. That row of pistons right there extends for a brief second to kill any Endermen that are currently there, and then it retracts the soul sand so that any that are going to continue to fall will automatically die. I didn't mean to do that. So I'm going to put that button back, and I will show you that this row of pistons will retract, or will crush any of the Endermen that are still there, and then from that point on, any Endermen that fall will instantly die, and all their ender pearls will drop into the hoppers that are here. So I will not be including this part of the redstone in my build. I have yet to find a reason to AFK at my Enderman farm just to get pearls. I get plenty of pearls just by killing them here, leveling up and enchanting books and armor and swords and stuff. So it's a nice addition if your server needs a lot of ender pearls and you want to AFK here just to gather ender pearls. But like I said, I haven't found a need for that yet. Now this section of redstone I will be going over. He's got a very nice simple redstone clock for a short elevator, just to take the pearls up and drop them in these chests, and then when these chests get full, it comes over here and drops it into onto the cactus to kill it. Now I don't use the cactus. Usually what I will do is I'll just take this out the back and let it shoot it out into the void, because just less space, and you know, it's a little bit easier that way. So he's got two different clocks here. He's got one clock that registers anytime anything gets inside that dropper, and then it cycles back around and powers the dropper to shoot it back out. And then he's got a short little clock here for the elevator to power that up. So and yeah, I can go over that when we get to the final parts of dressing up your Enderman farm. One other thing I will mention, and I have on my list of supplies that you might need, everything underneath these carpets is is hoppers. Now you don't need to cover your entire floor with hoppers if you choose not to. You will get pearls and experience flying out from this area here when you're killing the Enderman. This is basically just set up to pick up those extra drops. But if you're short on iron and don't have enough, and as you'll see, you'll need a lot of iron, a lot of redstone, and a lot of blocks, a lot of wood blocks to complete this. You may get to the point where you're tapped out on iron, and just filling up the floor with hoppers just to pick up a couple extra drops isn't as necessary as the rest of it. So I am leaving the carpeted area here and those hoppers as an optional add-on. If you choose to do it. If you choose not to, that's fine too. You don't have to. So that is King Happy's build, and let's continue on with how to put together this behemoth. Be right back. Alright guys, I am back in my I would hesitate to say test world, but basically with a build world where I have killed the dragon and it's set to peaceful, so I can show you a little bit more about how to build this behemoth Enderman farm. Obviously you'd want to build this farm in the end, because that's the only mob that spawns in the end are Endermen, and then now with 1.8 will be Endermites as well. So the first step, we need to get away from the island. So what I recommend you do, and this is a very simple trick that you can do just with some lava and a water bucket, is you head over to the edge of the island, and I've got something kind of prepped over here where you basically build yourself out a platform away from the edge. See, there's nothing out here on the edge underneath this, and you start yourself a lava cobble generator. Now before you do this, there's a couple things that you need to pay attention to. Real quick, before I start on this, I want you to understand a little bit more about the F3 screen if you're not familiar with it. What we're going to be looking at, and I can't, let's see if I can move my mouse up here if you can see this, is we're going to be looking at these two numbers right here. This is the chunk number for the x-axis, and this is the chunk number for the z-axis. Now each chunk is comprised of 16 blocks. 16 by 16 blocks comprises a chunk, and as we get out to our platform, it's going to be very important that we keep an eye on these numbers. Now every block starts with a 0 and then works its way up to 15 on both axes, and then it'll reset back down to 0. So once you get to 0, you're basically in another chunk, and this number right here will change. To maximize the spawning of our farm, we only want to build in 2 chunks out in the void. Because of that, we want to limit the number of chunks that are loaded around our farm. So we want to make sure that we're not putting any more blocks outside of those 2 chunks that we're building in. So for that reason, we want to make sure that on the axis that we're dropping our lava and basically building our pathway out is going to be on the edge of a chunk, and that's what I've got right here. See this 0 right here on my x-axis is 0. That means I'm at the edge of a chunk. If I escape out of my command menu and I move left, you'll see that number changes to 15 and then work its way down. The C number that's next to that outside of the parentheses says -2. So that means that I'm in a chunk that's negative, that's labeling that chunk as -2. As soon as I roll over to the 0, I'm now in chunk -1, and it will continue to climb all the way up to 15 until I make sure I don't fall off here, and then it will go back to 0. So now I'm in chunk 0, x0, and z -5. So that's very important, and I'll be going back over that again as we get out to where we're going to be building our platform. But it's a good habit to get into before you even start your pathway, because you're going to want your pathway, if you like things to be symmetrical, you're going to want your pathway to be right in the middle of your platform. So that's why I always look for the 0 axis, or the first block in a chunk before I place my lava. Now this trick is very simple. You want to come out here to the very edge, and I am shifting of course, and I'm going to place my lava right there in that hole. Now it's gonna sit there and drop, and see, I'll go ahead and fly just so you guys can see. It's gonna drop all the way down to level 1. You see right now my y-axis is 32. Now sometimes you can find platforms that are down here and do this down here, so it's a lot easier. We were way up at the top of the island, so it's got quite a ways to go. See, now we're down around 10. It's going to continue falling, and boom. See, my y-axis, I am at negative 0.4. I am actually below the void, and as you can see, nothing can exist below y-axis 0. Now that we've got our lava falling down, we're basically just going to turn it into a cobble generator. We're going to grab our water, and you can do this, as you're shifting as well, and we're just going to place the water source right there. And once that gets going, you can reclaim your lava source block if you'd like, or you can just place it there to block it out, and it'll start falling as well. And the same thing goes for your water source block. You can do the same thing there, and the water is basically going to follow that path all the way down and turn all of that into cobble all the way down to level 0. And then since we took out the source blocks, the lava and the water are going to continue all the way down and make yourselves a nice little cobble pillar that goes all the way down to the very bottom of the world. Now at this point, what I would do is I would just grab some ladders, and I would recommend, especially in survival, if you're going to do this, that you do this with very little inventory, no armor or shields or swords or anything else that you don't mind losing, and go down the ladder and hold shift as you're placing these ladders, so that if you fall, you don't lose anything. And just place your ladders going all the way down. As you can see, I'm having a little bit of trouble here just because of getting to that space. So, but you get the idea. And then of course make sure you take some blocks so that when you get down there you can create yourself a little platform, what have you, when you get down here. So this is going to be the floor of your walkway, and whatever, if the island's over here, that means you're going to want to sit there and start a pathway going this direction. Okay, and as you can see over there in the shadows, I've already started a pathway, so I'm not going to build this one out. But in a sense, that's how you get down to level 1. And it's essential that you get down to level 1 so that you have as many spawning platforms as you can in your farm. So let's go ahead and I'll leave this here. You've got the idea on how to get down to level 1. Let's go over here to the part that I've already built, and see, we don't need that anymore. This is I basically did the exact same thing here, but I have rounded it out in glass. This is how I would have built it once I got done getting down to the bottom. I'd go ahead and enclose it so that there's not any danger of falling when you're using it. And then again, it's up to you on how far out you want to take this, but I have taken it out about 200 blocks. See, if you look at my x-axis, I'm at negative 106. So if we fly out here to where I've already built my platform, you'll see that I'm going to end up being about 250, I believe. And that's a good starting point for the farm. Actually, no, I took it at 300. So a good point of measure is, can you see the island? See, I can barely see the island right there. Usually, if I can't see the island, I know I'm plenty far out. So, all right. So now we're going to get back to what I was talking about before about the chunks and the chunk numbers. If you look again at my F3, you'll see along the Z-axis, I am at chunk 0 and block 0 in chunk 0. So I have built out this platform in 2 different types of blocks so you can see where the chunks are. All the iron blocks are 1 chunk, and you can see here, if I move along the x-axis, oh no, this is the z-axis. If I move along the z-axis, Both Z and X, the chunk numbers in parentheses, the chunk block numbers in parentheses are 0, 0. Now if I move along the X, that number keeps climbing, and that's the block number of the chunk. As soon as I go off the edge and almost die, if it wasn't in creative, you'll see that chunk number switches to chunk 1. We don't want to load any more chunks than we have to, so this is the farthest out that I can build with blocks. Now you'll see later on we'll actually extend that a little bit with some water, but that won't count because that's not an actual block. That's not a source block. So as we move along the x-axis here, you'll see those parentheses numbers drop all the way down to 0, and then as we move back, the z-axis will drop again back down to 0. And if you counted all those, then that would be 16 blocks wide and 16 blocks long. Now we can't fit the Enderman farm in one chunk. 16 blocks is just not enough space for the farm. So we have it set up in 2 chunks, and that's why I've got a gold chunk over here and I've got an iron chunk over here. As you see, the reason that I was recommending that you start at the edge of a chunk is so that when you have your platform, your walkway, you end up in the middle of your farm. Because I know a lot of us like to build symmetrically. I like to too, so I mean eventually I might have widened this out to be a 2-block path, and I would have had it come right into the center of my farm. So again, very important that you make sure that you keep your build within 2 chunks. We only want to leave 2 chunks loaded out here just to maximize how many spawning spaces there are for the Enderman. Up next, we will start talking about the what else we need to build out here on the ground pad as far as the killing chamber with the soul sand and all of that. So hold right on, we'll be right back. Okay, so before we get started on building our ground layer of the Enderman farm, I want to go over a little bit about what you're going to need for this step of the build. You're going to need a total of 512 blocks for the base floor. That was both the gold chunk and the iron chunk. I am not counting the pathway or the lava, the cobble generator that we did with the ladders going down. I'm not counting any of that. I'm just counting the 2 chunks, the 512 blocks that you're going to need to fill in those 2 chunks of floor. You're also going to need 16 hoppers, 16 soul stand, and 16 stairs, along with 88 blocks to build out our killing chamber. So if you want to pause the video real quick, here's the blocks that you're going to need for your floor. These are the blocks that are going to go around your killing chamber, and then these are the blocks that are going to kind of finalize the killing chamber along with the hoppers and the soul sand. Now, as I told you before, if you want to fill your floor with hoppers and carpet in front of the killing chamber, you can. These are not necessary. Consider them an add-on. So once you get that stuff all situated, we'll get started. Alright guys, we're back here at our platform. We've got our supplies in our hotbar. That's not the supplies we need. Hold on, let me get rid of the monster egg. We don't want the monster egg. Okay, yeah, I want the mossy brick. Okay, so again, 2 different chunks, right? 16 blocks wide on both. We want our spawning platform to be in the middle of this so that we have enough room on the outside all the way around for any kind of redstone or any kind of enchantment tables or chests that we want, anything like that. So what I recommend is you count your way in 8 blocks, and that's going to be your 8th block, right? Okay, good, I did count that. And then you're basically going to count out 8 blocks on either side. And that'll be your killing chamber. But we're up, well, we're 1 too low because we need hoppers underneath all that. Now we're not going to worry about putting hoppers right now, but when you get ready to, you'll be putting hoppers down that feed out from here to to some kind of chest system or maybe a little mini elevator like you saw before. Okay, so I mean, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and do something like that. Just make sure you shift click and just follow the chain along this way. Now once we get done building this, we're going to raise the floor. This floor that we're on isn't going to be the floor that you're going to be initially walking on. So sometimes what I recommend is maybe putting some glowstone down. If you are going to do a floor full of hoppers, then I would recommend replacing these blocks with scattered glowstone, because glowstone will travel through the hopper and the carpet and light up the area very well. But what you end up doing is completely up to you. So we're not going to use the iron. Now, to build up your area, your killing chamber, you're going to need blocks along the back and the sides, because the one thing you don't want is these Endermen to get away. And so I'm using mossy stone here just to differentiate between other blocks. So now we've got one space here. This is going to be space number 2. Remember, Endermen are 3 high. And then we're going to do one more up here, right here. Now this one's going to be a little bit different because we're going to follow this one all the way around, taking that one out. And this is going to be the start of what you will see is a very familiar ring that the Endermen are going to be falling down through the rest of the build. What we're going to do now is we're going to place some temporary blocks along here, and just so that we have a place to put our stairs. Now the nice thing about these stairs is that it makes it completely safe for you to be walking along this floor, and the Enderman can't see you and can't harm you. So if you were, let's say this is the floor, you're walking along here, those stairs make it so that they can't reach you and they can't hurt you. Okay? And considering that they see that as a full block, but it's only a half a block, and you can basically sit there and punch them when you're not in creative to your heart's content, and killing them as you walk along here. So go ahead and build this up a little bit so we recognize that this is the floor. And that's basically your killing chamber. It's very simple, and usually what I will end up doing to start off the next section is put one more ring around in glass. Now you can, when we get to the next section, which is the anti-strafing section, because we don't want them drifting as they fall. Endermen need to fall, I believe it's 41, 42 blocks, if I'm not mistaken, to get hurt to the point where they die, or not die, but yeah, I'm not seeing that number here, but yeah, they'll need to drop about 42 blocks to get to the one punch kills range. And so what we're going to have to do next is we're going to have to build a network, or a tower of these rings. You can use glass, you can use slabs. In survival worlds, I use slabs quite a bit in place of the glass, just because it's a little cheaper. Because a lot of this build no one's going to see, so a lot of times what I'll end up doing is just do something like this. And for the anti-strafing rings that you see here, cobble slabs are some of the best because they're cheap. They don't take a lot. Obviously you've got lots of cobble, everybody's got lots of cobble, and they still do the job. So I'll leave that up to you on what you guys want to use. If you want to use slabs, if you want to use glass, glass is cool too because you can see the Enderman fall. But since we're already talking about that, let's go ahead and move on to the strafing rings. What you need for the strafing rings is, let's jump back over here to my supply list. You need 340 blocks or slabs of your choice. That's 5.5 stacks of something. If you want to use glass, then that's 5.5 stacks of glass. If you want to use slabs, it's completely up to you. So I need to change this. So let me teleport back over here to our base, to our building platform. Now the important thing to remember when you're building these, and you need to build 11 of these rings, because we should be starting out at layer 7. As you can see on my y-axis, I am standing on layer 7. So you want to space these 2 blocks apart. So as you can see here, I've got 2 blocks right here. You don't want it any more. You can do less if you want. You can make this completely solid. That's completely up to you. But the bare minimum is you can have 2 blocks of air in between each ring. And you need to do 11 of these rings to get up to layer 37. Okay? So what we're going to do here, again, 2 blocks difference between each of these. And it can be slabs, it can be glass. But we're going to do 11 of these layers until we get up to yeah, I just foobarred that all over the place, didn't I? Until we get up to layer 37. So this is the anti-strafing layer. It keeps the Endermen in place when they're falling, as they fall down to our killing chamber, because we don't want them drifting or strafing out of place. So I'll pause here as I build these other 11 layers and be right back. Okay, we're back, and we have all 11 layers of our anti-strafing rings set up. This would be number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And if you are standing on this and your Y coordinates are at 37, you have done it correctly. You are exactly the right place that you need to be in the build at this point. Now, I did go and look it up. Endermen need a fall of 32 blocks before they can receive enough damage to be killed in one hit. 43 or 44 ends up killing them almost immediately. So I think it's once you remove this layer of soul sand, then you're basically at 44 blocks. The next section that we're getting ready to build is called the fall reset layer. It starts right above the anti-strafing ring, and it basically resets the fall distance for any Endermen that are falling through the farm, so that when they get to this point and they fall, they're falling exactly 42 or 43 blocks. Sometimes it'll be 42, sometimes it'll be 43. As you can see when we get into the next part of this build, sometimes it varies depending on where they end up. So let's jump back over to where our supplies are. Our next section that we're building is the fall reset layer. Fall reset layer is comprised of 32 vines, 32 buttons, 32 tripwire hooks, 16 pistons, 86 slabs, and 2.5 stacks of blocks of some kind. Now I'm using stone brick. You could use cobble, completely up to you. If you'd like to pause the video here just to see what you're going to need to build this section, go ahead and do so. And then we'll move on and build this layer. I am going to be referencing back to King Happy's builds a couple times during this, just because there are a couple different things that that I don't know by heart, and I have to reference. This is a complicated section, probably the most complicated section, because there's not a pattern when you're building this. So we're going to need some pistons, we're going to need some tripwire hooks, we are going to need some vines. See, I should have grabbed this when I was looking at it, huh? And I believe that's it. I'll grab some glass too, but you don't have to use glass. This is just kind of as a continuation of where we were before, but I believe that'd be it. We may need some string as well if I I may not have put the string on the list, so I apologize for that. If that's the case, then you will need an additional 16 string for this section of the build. So what we're going to do, remember this is our layer 37, our Y37. We're going to go up 2 from this this build. I'm just glancing at something real quick here. We're going to go up 2 on the back side, 2 spaces, and then we're going to build another wall, and this wall needs to be 2 high. And King Happy did it with glass. You can do it with whatever blocks you want, but basically this section of the reset is mainly used to push the Enderman into a 1 high or 1 wide gap, because as we get up into our spawning layers, and the spawning layers are going to be the ones that take up most of your time, you'll see that the spawning layers take up two wide spaces. So now we're going to start using half slabs here. That's just so that we don't create any spawning platforms for the Endermen as well. So excuse me for a second, let me look over here at King Happy's build, and we are going to do another ring here right above. Again, this is just for creating a area for the Enderman to get pushed into a 1 wide drop. So that's what that is for. This is what you're going to need to build for the first part of our fall reset layer, is what I'm calling this. Again, you've got 3 rows of 16 blocks. I used glass here. You can use whatever blocks you want, and then of course our slabs to keep them from getting outside of this layer right here. Now we're going to come up, looks like 2 blocks. Let me verify that real quick. What do we got here? Yep, that is 2 blocks. And we're going to come over here, come up 2 blocks and over 1. Okay, so this is going to be a common theme as we move forward, where you're always going to be coming up and moving over, and I'll get to that in a minute once we get to our spawning layer. So again, we're just full blocks all the way out this way, and same thing here, full blocks all the way out this way. And then we're going to put a couple slabs over here just to make sure they can't wander outside of our area. And hold on a quick second. Again, if you didn't hear me say it before, this is not my build. I am basically replicating what King Happy's build, because his video is no longer up, and I think it's probably the best build out there. Now we're putting slabs down here, lower slabs, just to make sure that nothing can spawn on those, and you'll see we do that a lot as we get higher up. We're going to put pistons along the slabs. You see where I'm clicking on with my target, along the back of those slabs right there. And then we're going to come down here and put tripwire hooks underneath each of these on either side to activate those pistons. When you're done with that, you're going to come along and put your tripwire, your string, and yeah, you will activate it. But the nice thing about this farm is that Steve is only 2 high and Enderman are 3 high, so you can activate it by standing on the platforms below, or if you're jumping, but you can't get knocked off. See, so that's one of the nice things. Unless you're really clumsy, it's hard to fall down in the middle there. Okay, so now we've got, this is the layer that basically pushes them into the single drop. What we're going to do now is we're going to place a row of blocks along the top on either side here to place our vines. And this is the fall reset section. So when I said that this was all fall reset, I should have said it's fall reset, and it basically pushes them into a one wide gap for our killing chamber. Buttons, that was the other thing I needed. I know I missed something. Then we're going to grab some buttons and just place buttons along this right here on either side. And the reason for the buttons will be explained here in just a second. And we're going to grab a couple more blocks and do 2 high again. Let me double check that. Yep, doesn't need that. That was me, and if you heard the glass there, that was me in King Happy's world, breaking something that I was using for measuring that we don't need. So again, we're coming over here, we're putting our slabs on the edge just so that there's not any way they can drift out or wander outside of the ring that we want them in. And then again, slabs over here. You will notice that we're not putting any on the corners, and there's a reason for that. We want to limit the number of blocks and basically the number of spawnable blocks in this build as much as possible. So now what we're doing is we're basically filling in both of these rows with vines. As you know, vines and ladders are considered half block, and entities can land on them. So if I was going to fall, I'm going to sit there and hit those vines before I continue to fall down. And this is what resets the fall damage for Enderman. As they fall through our spawning platforms that we're going to build above this, they're going to hit these vines. The buttons are going to stop the vines from dropping any further, and then they're going to continue to fall, hit this, move, get pushed into our drop, and then this is going to be our damaging drop. Now you will get sometimes it will happen where the Endermen will end up dying as they fall. Sometimes one Enderman is in the way, or something else happens that the fall reset doesn't work, but 99% of the time this will stop the Enderman from dying, from falling from way up there and all the way down into your killing chamber. Okay, so that is the bulk, that is all of the fall reset. The next part is going to be the bulk of the build, and it's the one that you're going to be spending the most time with, and that's going to be the spawning platforms. There are a total of 38 spawning platforms in this build, and each one of them consists of 32 tripwire hooks, 16 string, and 16 pistons, along with blocks and slabs. It does constitute a very expensive build, and in a minute I will show you what that entails as far as supplies go, and we'll start working on how to build each of those layers. So be right back. Alright guys, now we're to the hard part. The last couple of steps have just kind of been preliminaries, and they are important, but this is where the grunt work and the most time it's going to take you to build this farm is you're going to be spending here on these spawning platforms. And trust me, as someone who's built this in survival 3 or 4 times, some single players, some SMP servers, this is the part that you're going to have to grind for. You're going to have to gather up a lot of iron, you're going to have to gather up a lot of wood, and you're going to have to gather up quite a bit of cobble, redstone, and other things. The reason that we built this all the way down on level 1 is because we want as many spawning platforms as we can get to maximize our rates on how many Endermen we have spawning. That means we can get a total of 38 platforms that Endermen can spawn in. Each platform is going to have 37 of those platforms is going to have 16 pistons, 32 tripwire, 16 string, 32 blocks and 38 slabs. That's what each platform needs. Now if you total all that up, and I did the math a little bit wrong, so ignore this part of the sign, it's actually 28 stacks of iron ingots, 19 stacks of redstone, 71 and a quarter stacks of planks, 78 stacks of cobble, and it has to be cobblestone for your pistons, and then 19 stacks of blocks and 22 and a half stacks of slabs. Now these are going to be your building blocks, and that's where this comes in. The cobble and the planks comes in for the pistons and the tripwire. And then of course you're going to need your, I didn't put in the string down here, so you are going to need 19 stacks of string as well. So I didn't put that in here either, so I apologize for that. But if you look in here, here's just a good example, a snapshot of the supplies that you'll need for all of this. Okay, so it's not 19 stacks of strings, I forgot. I apologize for that. The correct number is 9.5 stacks of strings, because we're only going to be using 16 per layer. So 9.5 stacks of strings. You're going to need 19 stacks of tripwire hooks, and you're going to need 19 stacks of pistons. You're also going to need all of these bricks, all these blocks. It can be any block you want. It can be in stone, it can be dirt. I wouldn't recommend dirt. These are Enderman we are talking about after all. And then slabs. So that's just kind of a good example of what you'll need to build this all the way up to the top of what we're talking about. That being said, I have built this from the ground up on a couple different servers and started off slowly. If you get 5 spawning layers done, this will start working. You will start getting Enderman, and you can add on to it as you get more iron. Obviously, with the requirement of iron that this needs, I do highly recommend you build yourself an iron golem farm before you even attempt to build this farm. But if you have quite a bit of people in your group and they want to pool resources, 28 stacks of iron, maybe that's not that hard a shopping list to complete. I'll leave that up to you. But I have built this and started off with just 5 spawning layers, and then as I get more, I sit there and add more on until I get all the way up to the top. Now let's go ahead and teleport back over to our platform. And as you can see, we've still got our anti-strafing layers, and we've got our fall reset layer. So one of the reasons why I wanted to tell you about starting at level 1, again, I know we can build up to 256, but you don't want to build up to 256. When you're building this farm, you do not want to place any blocks above layer 126. I am in 1.7.9, as you can see on my F3 screen. And the reason I'm in 179, I have tested this farm in snapshot 2114 W21B, and it does work, but the 1.8 version of Minecraft's F3 screen does not have one value that I absolutely need to show you when building this farm, and that is, if you look on the very bottom half of the F3 screen, and I will attempt to use my mouse here to show you, is this LC value right here. LC is loaded chunk. I believe loaded chunk. I'm not 100% sure on the abbreviation, but I am 100% sure on what it means. That is the maximum height that it is loading in this chunk. The higher that number, the more blocks above you it is loading in the game. The lower that number, the better our rates are going to be. If we go above 126, then we are basically building above the loaded chunks that we are building above where the chunks are loaded when we're AFK down here on the ground. So when I'm down here, the most number of blocks that it will load above me is 126. Anything higher than that is a waste, and anything higher than that is going to lower your rates, because while it will not load those chunks, it will keep them in memory. And if it keeps them in memory, then that means it's going to drop the spawn rates for anything in the chunk that you're in. And this is just the way that Capty explained it. He was the one who figured this out, I believe, according to his video. I may be wrong. This is just hearsay from his video. If you build above 126, not only will it be a waste of time because those blocks will not be loaded, it will also lower your spawn rates for the areas that you have built that are loaded, because the game will consider those as spawnable blocks even though it can't spawn because they're not loaded because it's too high above you. I hope that makes sense. So that's the reason why it's imperative that you start off at level 1. You've got 43 blocks to go up for your to drop them to killing distance, and then above that you want as many spawnable platforms as you can. So I'm not going to sit there and berate that fact. We're going to go ahead and get started with our spawning platforms, and I will show you. This is a very simple pattern that you can use. Hold on, let me verify where I'm at and what we're doing. That's a very important point that I wanted to make sure that everybody understood, because if you mess up on that point, then you don't want to have to go back and change this build after you're done. So alright, so what we're doing here is we're building our very first spawning platform, and because it's our very first one, we don't have to worry about pistons or anything like that. That's why you're going to basically get a free spawning platform, and you're not going to have to worry about the pistons and tripwire hooks for this one, because this is basically the first one that they can spawn on. These blocks right here, this is a spawning platform. Okay, so what we're going to do, and switch over here and pull up the correct view. I just want to make sure that first one got built correctly. This is going to be a repeating pattern. Once you learn this pattern, it's going to be really easy. 2 up and 1 over. Okay, and you're always going to want to remove those 3. 2 up and 1 over from your spawning platform. Okay, same thing goes over here. Okay, let me get this started, because this is going to be the exact same place. Yep, 2 up and 1 over on either side is going to be where these blocks go. And I'm shifting, and I don't need to because I'm in creative. So we're going to build these out. And again, these are spawnable pads, right? We're going to put, these are again more anti-strafing rings. Okay. And then you're going to place pistons along the corners here. And you're going to place tripwire hooks underneath on both sides. And I know this is a bit confusing here at the beginning, but let me get 1 or 2 down and I'll show you the pattern. Once you get going, it's very simple, and you'll be able to do it almost in your sleep. I say almost just because you will be here in the end. I know you can't switch to peaceful, so you'll want to make sure that you stick around so the Endermen don't spawn while you're there. And then you just want to come along and place your string. And trust me, do not forget this. There's been times where I've come back through my farms and just checking things and realized that I forgot to put string on a couple of layers. So that is, in a sense, one spawning platform. This is the area right here that the Endermen are going to spawn on, this entire row. They're going to activate the tripwire, and then the piston is going to push them in down the row. Now, the benefit to this, the beauty of this design, and one of the reasons why I like it so much, is that you're reusing blocks. This layer right here now becomes the next spawning platform, and you're basically going to be alternating left to right all the way up into the sky up to 126, and you should get yourself a 27 of these layers with pistons and tripwire hooks. Okay, so what we're doing here is actually the order that I usually go in when I'm building this, and you're always going to match these slabs. These slabs are always going to go on these 3 blocks, so that it's basically blocked all the way up. Okay, and then the other thing that you're going to want to remember is that the pistons always alternate. So if you did pistons on this side, you're going to do pistons on this side this time. And a lot of times I'll just put them right on top of those tripwire hooks right there. Makes it nice and simple. So I'm just selecting the top of the hitbox of the tripwire hook, and then I'm going to come down here and place my string. And there we go, we've got another layer done. Stuck. Okay. Alright, so there we go. We've got our second layer done. Now, as you can see, we've got a layer here of tripwire hooks, pistons, and tripwire hooks. Now, over here, we're going to have a layer of tripwire hooks, pistons, and we're going to come back the other way. Now, it is important to mention that at this point, I usually do a row of slabs at this level right here, just to make sure that I don't leave any spawnable areas outside of where I want them to be for Enderman to spawn. Again, we're going to go up 2, over 2, and we're going to take out those 3 right there, and then that's going to be our 2 rows for this level. Again, I keep forgetting I'm in creative. I don't have to crouch or walk along here. And again, we're going to be placing our three strafing slabs on either side. Something I didn't mention that I probably should have is that when I'm building this in survival, I usually have a pillar right here. And this is how I get up and down. Now you can leave this if you want. You can destroy it when you're done. The main thing to remember is to always slab it over, and then I'll sit there and put ladders along it, and that will be my access up and down this thing. So that's something I hadn't thought about, but yeah, when you're building, you know, go ahead and make yourself a pillar with a ladder on it. Alright, so we're here, we're ready for tripwire hooks. And tripwire hooks. Oh, see, there I go. Gotta be careful. And if you ever get confused about where you're at, always look at your pistons. Last layer of pistons was over here on the left. Next layer of pistons is going to be over here on the right. Because you're always going to alternate. You're always going to be pushing towards the center of that of the farm. And as you get further and further up, you'll see the center drop right there. So we're going to come down here. We're going to go ahead and put some more string on. Oh, and I'm falling again. Okay, and there you have it. That's kind of a good cross-section of 2 different, let's see, we've got 3 different layers here four different spawning pads. We've got a spawning pad, and let's get something to mark them. Okay, so that's a spawning pad. That's a spawning pad. Oh, see, I broke my string. That's a spawning pad, and then that's a spawning pad. Okay, so we've got four different rows here that are spawning pads, and that's how you go about it. You're basically going to be repeating this pattern all the way up to 126. Just tripwire hook, piston, tripwire hook, tripwire hook, piston, tripwire hook, tripwire hook, piston, and then again I do tripwire hook. And just remember to continue placing your slabs down. You can space them out like that, and then just come right across like so, and that will keep these areas back here spawn proof from Enderman. So I'm not going to go through and build all 27 or 37 layers with you, but that's in a sense what you need. Go ahead and continue on, and when we come back we'll talk about finishing things up, how to clean up the top of your farm a bit so you make sure that nothing spawns above 126, and so on. Alright guys, I am over here back in King Happy's build. I did want to show you a little bit more about the top end of the spawn layers. As you can see, we are up here at elevation 126. Our LC is 127, so that is perfect. Now you want to make sure that on this last level that you do, you want to make sure that there are no other spawnable areas. Now as you can see, we're continuing on with our slabs on the outsides here to make sure that there aren't any 3 high blocks in between these two that they can spawn in. But we're not going to have that up here. So what we're doing is we're covering everything. It's not just the outsides, but we're covering all of this stuff with lower slabs. This is all lower half slabs right here, and this is all lower half slabs along here, again on the other side. So these 3 levels along these top blocks, you need to make sure that have slabs on them so that they can't spawn. Entities cannot spawn on a piston because a piston is considered a transparent block. Now it is important to remember that Enderman can teleport up here. So you will have Enderman teleporting up here if you are up here working, or you go down your ladder and you come back. But the piston pushing them is not registered as a hostile act, so they should not teleport away when the piston pushes them, or else this farm wouldn't work. So as long as they don't have a reason to, they shouldn't be able to teleport up to the top of anything up here on this farm. So you want to make sure that you make the top layer of your farm unspawnable so that everything spawns inside where these tripwires are, and these pistons push them down into our gap that goes all the way down. And as you can see, when you get up this high with 38 layers of spawning platforms, all those tripwire hooks look pretty amazing. Alright, when I come back we'll talk about how to different systems on collecting Ender pearl drops, as well as dressing up the bottom layer of your farm where most people are going to be using it. Alright guys, I did a couple of quick little things here at the base of our Enderman farm, just to point out what you can do as far as collection methods go. All of the Ender pearls are going to be falling right through here. So if we were to just toss a couple here, you'd see that they'd get picked up by our hoppers, and that may be why you want to put some hoppers down on the floor right here. They'll sit there and travel around through these set of hoppers right here. This is a very short redstone elevator using droppers. The only drawback is that it will hold 1 item, but it only elevates it up 3 blocks, and it doesn't click, which is very nice. I really like this design. the way it works is that there is a comparator down here that gets powered whenever there's an item in here that turns off this torch, which unpowers this block, which removes the power from this hopper, which allows the sword to come over here, power this comparator, and that in turns powers these blocks here, which allow the elevator to go up. Now, as soon as this comparator depowers, that torch comes back on and it locks these hoppers, which shuts the whole thing off. But since we've only got the one torch, it doesn't click that much at all, and it makes it for a very nice elevator. So see, as it turns on, all those are going up, and you don't hear any clicking at all. It's just blinking that comparator on and off, which powers all of these droppers to push it up into our hopper chain. And as you can see here, I do have a few chests here for our ender pearls. You will get a ton of ender pearls. Ender pearls will become like trash. You just throw them away. It doesn't matter. Okay? Everybody can have stacks upon stacks of ender pearls. So much so that when all these chests fill up, you won't care that the system is throwing them away. Alright, when you've got 12 double chests full of ender pearls, it doesn't matter if you're throwing them away or not. So what I've done is I've taken King Happy's other little clock for his dropper over here, and instead of dropping it into the cactus, I'll just have it drop out the backside of the void. So if we were to place a couple here, it's just going to sit there and shoot them out the back. And yes, this one does click, but that's fine, because we don't care. We don't care about ender pearls anymore. We're getting tons of them, right? So it'll shoot all those out, and then once it's done, it'll finish. Again, just another simple little clock. The comparator reads if that's full, or if that has any items in it. It does a short pulse delay around to this redstone wire, which powers the dropper again, and it continues that pulse in a circuit until the dropper is empty. So just some very basic redstone to help you manage the bottom layer, or the floor here of your drops. You will be getting a lot of them, and you will be overflowing. Now, as you can see, I have built up my floor a little bit and put some glowstone in. I will warn you that when you're breaking blocks, then anything that drops from here, if you can't catch it in time, will drop into the void, and you will not be able to recover it. So just be careful about that. Now, when I return, I will show you a little bit more about finalizing the floor down here to make sure that Enderman can't teleport to it, and also doing a little bit of cleanup and beautification, if you will. So I'll be right back. Alright guys, I am back again with a kind of a final build of our Enderman farm. This is a copy of King Happy's build that I have altered to add a roof to, and also add the water that is needed. We are in Snapshot 14W21B, because I did want to show you that it is working in 14W21B. As you can see here, Endermen are spawning and falling down through our anti-strafing layer. They are trying to teleport away, but they can't find anywhere to teleport to because we have covered our entire build in water. So, as you know, they will not teleport anywhere where they can find where there's water. They just can't do it. They hate water. And then if you come down in here, everything is too high, 2.5 blocks high. Okay, so that's very important when you're doing your build. Remember, Enderman can teleport up to 32 blocks away, so you want to make sure that your pathway is teleport proof as well. Now, as we come back in here, you will recognize that this is King Happy's build, because he had the buttons and everything, but of course I have modified this. You do see that we are spawning Endermites because they're trying to teleport, but not a lot of them. And then you just sit there and come along here and kill them to your heart's content. Okay? Now, as you can see, I have slabbed over the entire roof, and I have slabbed this over twice, pretty much, because there is a second layer up here where we have redstone, And if you don't have a lot of redstone, you don't have to have this extra layer up here of slabs, but you want to make sure that this layer in here isn't tall enough for them to teleport to. Okay, you will see that some of these guys are glitching out and getting out, trying to get out, but that's just glitching. If I was to sit there and switch my game mode over into survival, you could see that I could come along here and kill these guys with not even any worry about being killed. And now I'm killing them with their own pearls. How about that? Endermites aren't causing me any problems whatsoever. It is a little loud. Let me turn that down for you guys. See, that was at 10%, so let's try 2. So it's still really loud. These guys are all glitching. You don't have to worry about any of that. Again, very, very productive farm. Produces... last time I checked, you could get, if you were at level 0, you could get up to about level 30 in a minute or two of just punching these guys. Now, I have noticed that on some servers, the spawning rates will just stop for a minute, and you won't get any spawns at all. Now, that'll happen occasionally, and it's just some servers have different spawn mob caps, so if that happens, not to fret, just give it a minute and you'll start to get spawns again. A lot of people will sit there and you know, set yourself up a little enchanting table over here with a set of bookcases, just so that you can maximize your space. If we were to do that, you know, you could very easily, that's probably going to be under regular blocks, isn't it? Get yourself a bookcase, get yourself the enchanting table, drop that down in the center, surround it by bookshelves, and you'd have yourself a pretty nice little setup here when it comes to enchanting, you know. In addition, you'd want to place some anvils over here just for combining bookcases and other enchantments. As you can see, I've kind of put a little bit of a wall around here. You don't have to. It just kind of gives it a little bit better, a little safer area. Again, these guys are just sitting here waiting to be killed, and tons of levels waiting to be gained. So, I think that's about it. As you can see, we're basically overflowing with ender pearls. You will be getting a lot of them. This is a very, very productive farm, and you will be a very popular guy on your server once you build it. See, that kills them all, and then now they're gonna start dying right away as they fall. Again, I haven't found too much of a reason for this to have this ability, but if you want to, you can. I will include a download to King Happy's world so that you can inspect that redstone. And I think that's about all I've got for you guys today. I hope this build has been a good one for you guys, and I thought I switched to peaceful. Did I switch it to peaceful? But they're still there. That's interesting. I wonder if that's a bug. Well, I still can't kill them either, so... Very, very interesting. I'll have to see if that's been submitted to the Mojang bug report. So, anyway, I hope this has been a very helpful tutorial for you guys on how to build one of these. In my opinion, probably the best. What is that doing there? One of the best. That shouldn't be there. XP farms. That's out there. Probably one of the hardest to build as well, so you have to be careful of that. I'm not going to break that because that's going to flood the inner chamber and take out all my redstone, so I'll just leave that there. Again, just a very simple idea of what you can do to decorate it up. There's been plenty of other ways that you can you can go about doing it. You can replace the floor. You don't have to. You can do different color carpets. Lots of ways to clean this up and really make it into an awesome thing. If you don't like the droplets, then you can add another layer of slabs up to the top and then put the water on. That won't affect things at all. Just put yourself another layer of slabs and then water. So that'll remove the droplets that are falling. Again, my name is Cybernary. This has been the Ender Farm tutorial. And again, this is King Happy's design. This is not my design. I do not take credit for it. I just wanted a video out there showing how to build it step by step, because I felt like it was an important piece of Minecraft history, if you will, and it was important enough that we keep it documented, even though his channel is now gone and he's no longer doing videos. So I hope you guys enjoyed. A rating is always a like is always appreciated. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. I do have a couple. Currently have a Let's Play series going on with Terra Firmacraft. I'm currently working on a whitelist server for several of the people I play with, and there will be much more to come for the channel in the future. So thank you guys for watching. I know this has been a long video. I hope it's been instructional, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.